So yeah, okay, I think we are ready to start. Thank you everyone for joining. So this is obviously the Payara Platform Community is Changing Q&A webinar. So I do have a couple of slides just to put everything in the context. This is going to be just really quick because we are here mostly for obviously having conversations and conversation and answer your questions about what it means that Payara Platform Community is going from Payara Platform 5 to Payara Platform 6. So just a bit of a, oh, hang on, there you go. Just a bit of a context here. So Payara Platform Community 5 will have its terminal release this month. So it's coming very shortly. Obviously, if you are subscribed to our mailing list, to the blog, or if you follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, you will know as soon as it's out. It should be in the next couple of days, hopefully. So it is coming in December, and that is the final release of version 5 for Payara Platform Community. And this is a very important important thing for all of you who use community version. This will be the last version that will support the bug fixes. So you will have all of the bugs that were raised, that were found, will be fixed in this release. But this will be the last release with those the last release of Payara Platform 5 that will have bug fixes. However, the Payara Platform 5 Enterprise release support for that one will continue. But yeah, you do have to move then from community to enterprise. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. So what has changed, or what is changing when it comes to Payara Platform 5 to Payara Platform 6? As most of you probably already know, Payara Platform 6 is already out. So you can already start using these all of these options that I'm going to go through now. But the final release of Payara Platform 5, which is coming this month, what is changing there? So Jakarta E8, obviously Payara Platform 5 is running on Jakarta E8, and the biggest change is that Payara Platform Community 6 will now only run Jakarta EE 10. So this is a crucial change that you need to be aware of, and it does mean that you will have to update your environment, and there's a lot of issues that may happen if you don't do that, and we will talk about this in the Q&A session. And if you have any specific questions, then please do post them in the chat or in the Q&A. What else has changed? Microprofile 4 in Payara Platform 5 is now going to change to Microprofile version 5 in Payara 6. This is predominantly a namespace change. So it doesn't, you just make sure that you need to make sure that you update your dependencies. However, Microprofile 6 is coming soon. So do keep an eye on Eclipse updates. We are going to let you know as well when Microprofile 6 comes out. But for now, this is not a breaking change. However, you do need to be aware of that. That it's no longer Microprofile 4 in Payara 6, it's Microprofile 5. Now JDK 8 is changing to JDK 11. So what that means is both the compile version and the minimum runtime version of Java that you need to use to run Payara Platform has now changed. So from JDK 8 in Payara Platform 5 to JDK 11 in Payara Platform 6. And then the last thing, Transformer, Java EE Transformer is now switched. So it now transforms EE8 applications to EE10. So these are the 4 crucial changes. We have actually went into more details about these in our previous webinar, and you can find the webinar on our YouTube channel. I will post it in the chat later, where we talked about Andrew, actually, who's here with us today, talked a little bit more about technical details of what's in Payara Platform 6. So if you want to get more information on that, you can always go back to that webinar recording as well. So just to wrap it all up, what does that mean, the changes? So Payara Platform 5 community is now replaced by Payara Platform 6 community. And the breaking change here is that it's going to be using Jakarta EE 10 rather than Jakarta EE 8. Move to Jakarta EE 10, yes, is a breaking change. So this is why you need to be aware of that and the changes that that it brings. And if you do decide to stay on Payara Platform 5, what it means for you, those changes about Jakarta EE 8 and Jakarta EE 10. So earlier versions of Jakarta EE or Java EE will no longer be supported on Payara Platform 6 community version. And that also means, as I said earlier, that Payara Platform 5 community will no longer receive the bug fixes, updates, and improvements after its final release this month. So Payara Platform 5 Enterprise version, with that one, you can stay with earlier Jakarta EE and Java EE versions. You do get support if you want to move from Jakarta EE 8 to Jakarta EE 10. And another benefit is that you can upgrade at your own pace. You can upgrade when you are ready. So this is something that you definitely might need to consider if you do need to or want to stay on Payara Platform 5. So next steps, other than obviously staying here with us for the Q&A and asking any questions if you have them, is you can have a look at our resources about Payara Platform Enterprise. What does that mean? That it's available for you if you want to stay on Payara Platform 5 version. What support is available, bug fixes, etc. What that means, what are the benefits of Payara Platform Enterprise if you do want to stay on Payara Platform 5. I will post some of the links to the resources in the chat as well while we will be doing the Q&A. So have a look at that in the next few minutes. And yeah, and that's really all from me. This is just putting it all in the context. So we now move on to the Q&A session with our Payara Platform and Jakarta EE experts, Andrew, John, and Luqman. So I'll stop sharing my screen so you can actually see us. And I can see some questions, which is great. Right, so let's start. I'll start with some of the questions that were submitted earlier, and I think I'll mix it up. But again, do carry on posting your questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. So, right. So what will I have to do to move my Jakarta E8 Payara 5 community apps to Payara 6 community? I don't know which one of you guys would like to start with this question. So
I suppose I can jump in.
Yeah,
so assuming, so this is a Jakarta EE8 to a Jakarta EE10 switch. Obviously, well, for the start, there's the jump from Payara 5 to Payara 6. So your environment will need to be updated to JDK 11 just to run Payara 6, because Payara 6 minimum version is Java 11. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to recompile your application for Java 11, but you will still need to update your environment for that. And then on the Jakarta front, the transformer is there, and so it should help you with that migration. But the transformer in its current incarnation is still, it's not a silver bullet. There are still some things which don't work. For example, there's some changes there. Just off the top of my head, there's the weld, the CDI default bean discovery change of something that may have just deployed magically fine on Payara 5. When you try to deploy it on Payara 6, it may not like it because the bean discovery, the default bean discovery mode has changed. So there might be some things you have to tweak there, but then just generally the transformer can't account for everything. As I said, it's not a silver bullet of the current incarnation has some limitations here and there of what it can and can't transform, but then also there are just the limitations of it's not, because this is Jakarta EE8 to Jakarta EE10, it's not just a namespace change. There are some things which have just been culled from Jakarta EE. And so the transformer obviously can't transform those because there's nothing to transform it to. And then you will just have to, frankly, unfortunately, update your application with the latest API in that case.
Yep, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, the transformer is a best effort project. So for community, you might have to make a list of the changes in EE10 and then be aware of those so that you can know how to upgrade. Like Andy mentioned, it's not everything that the transformer can account for. It's a best effort basis. So you need to be aware of that if you're on the community stream.
Okay, thanks, Luqman. Right, so thanks for that. So we'll move on to the next question. So that's a question from Anbu in the chat. Will Payara 6 be compatible with microprofile 5 and 6 once microprofile 6 is released?
I'll jump in again. So at this point in time, Payara 6 is microprofile 5 compliant, and microprofile 6 is either just come out or is coming out soon. I can't remember what the actual release date of it is, but it's imminent. But once the intent though for Payara is not to support both, because this is a major release of microprofile. Some things have actually just been removed from microprofile. Off the top of my head, I believe some factory methods which removed in the microprofile metrics. So the intent is not to support both microprofile 5 and 6. Once there will be a big jump of, we will go from microprofile 5 to 6. We're not intending to do any kind of in-betweeny thing of we support these microprofile 5 specifications and then this singular one, because that leaves us kind of in between specifications and compliant with neither. So it will just be one gigantic jump to microprofile 6. That's intended to happen sometime in Q1 of 2023.
Okay, because that was my extra question actually, because I guess we won't be doing that jump right away with the next Payara Platform Community 6 release that comes after microprofile 6. No, that will need a couple of months of preparation time, I guess.
Just for the benefit of everyone on the call, Andrew, will that information apply to Payara Micro as well as the full version of Payara?
Yes, this is to use the terminology. This change will affect Payara Platform as a whole, not just Payara Server or Payara Micro. It's in the case of microprofile, the implementation is shared between both of them. So the jump will happen to both at the same time.
Great, thanks, Andrew. Some more questions. This one's from Douglas. Do we know when JDK 17 will be supported?
It is already, I believe.
There you go. That's the simple answer. Okay, and then from Mike, what is needed in NetBeans to work with Payara Community 6? That might be a wider question. So just general, what's needed in NetBeans to work with the US
the actual plugin itself, the Glassfish Payara plugin for just for NetBeans, I believe is not working either for Glassfish or Payara. I'd have to double check the Glassfish side of that, but at least for Payara, unfortunately, the plugin itself just doesn't work right now. We're in the process of updating it. I believe there are some upstream issues with NetBeans itself, with their CI, their Jenkins or Travis, which whatever it is they use to do their builds. I believe there's some issues there which are kind of hampering us actually getting our updates into NetBeans, because the Payara plugin is actually bundled into NetBeans. It's not just an additional thing that we can that we release that you add in. But at the moment, it's unfortunately not working. So you'd have to be a bit Luddite-ish and just use Payara yourself manually and do the deployments like that. So not within the actual IDE integration. But it is happening soon. Sorry. Yeah, I phrased that like I was going to give an or, but no, there isn't an or.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Right. So question which was partly already answered, but I'll reiterate on that one. Will Payara 5 community get security fixes? So yes, the answer is no. I can answer that, but obviously it will get security fixes if you are on Payara Platform Enterprise version. So you can stay with Payara Platform 5 for a much longer term if you do get Payara Platform Enterprise, and you do get the fixes and quite a lot more. And there's another question which basically says, what else will I get with Payara Enterprise? So maybe that's a perfect one for John to answer.
Yeah, short answer to that. The key point is that it's got a very long runway with support up to 2028. So that means you can continue to use Payara 5 for that amount of time if you so choose. And it takes the pressure off that upgrade to the Jakarta E10 and Payara 6. That's the basic premise in a nutshell, but it does have some extra bells and whistles in there as well. Obviously, we've got a support model in place, so you can raise a ticket with our support team and get assistance from them. There are a few additional features that go into the enterprise version as well, which are really aimed at production usage. So there's the Insight monitoring console, which allows you to set alerts and graphs, so you can actually look at what's happening in your JVM, look at what's happening in your deployments, and follow that in real time and set thresholds in case you want to understand certain information about how they're being used. It's also got an upgrade tool which allows you to easily update from one minor version to the next through the as admin command. So this, in some cases, can bring it down to a job which takes just a few minutes to actually update the server. And we can help you through our support with that as well via scripting, just to make that process as efficient as possible. We don't want to make it a difficult task to jump from Community 5 to Enterprise 5. So we deliberately make the two versions of Payara very similar to one another in terms of the basic chassis of the platform. So anything additional in the Enterprise version is essentially an add-on that you may decide to use, you may not decide to use it, but the basic functionality of the server is exactly the same.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest thing here is you also get support from us to move from Jakarta E8 to Jakarta E10, which may be a much bigger task, and Payara Platform Enterprise subscription basically gives you our help with that as well.
That's it.
Just
Yeah.
to add to that,
Yeah.
That's it. We can support you.
Yeah, just to add to what Jono and yourself.
Yeah, go for it, Luqman.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you're updating Java version, if you're upgrading to the new Jakarta framework, or basically looking to upgrade anything in your stack which is directly integrated with Payara, then raise the support request for that if you're a customer, because the typical approach would be, yes, we can definitely help you with that. Even if you're looking to integrate a technology into Payara which isn't currently integrated. So for example, you've got new security keys that you want to run with Payara, then we can actually help you with projects like that as well. But obviously you need the enterprise subscription in place first to be able to get that level of support. Yeah,
Luqman, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just to add to all that, as we said, the enterprise subscription is essentially designed to give you peace of mind to focus on your problem domain without necessarily having to worry about there's a new release, they have to upgrade, you need to worry about breaking changes and all of that. You're sort of abstracted from all of that. So the enterprise package is designed for you to spend or invest as much time in your business domain to deliver value to your customers as possible. And then you leave the problem of upgrades and server management and all of those complexities to the people that are involved in that, which is the enterprise guys. Andrew and the Payara team. You leave that to us to handle for you, and then you can focus on delivering much better value to your customers. So enterprise is essentially designed to help you deliver better value faster to your customers without having to worry about all these things that we are discussing. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really well summarized there. Okay, so we've got a couple more questions. So does Eclipse and IntelliJ support Jakarta EE10? Andrew.
Yeah, for IntelliJ, I know there is support for Jakarta EE10 because I've used it. That's what I'm using currently. But I can't speak for Eclipse because it's been quite some time I used Eclipse. Perhaps Andrew can chime in here.
Unfortunately, I'm an IntelliJ user myself. So the actual Payara plugins for both Eclipse and IntelliJ are in the process of being updated now, as in right this very second, I believe. Not by me. I'm not that good. The Eclipse plugin is being pretty much rewritten as the internals of how the original plugin that worked with the older version of Eclipse changed. As I say, I don't use Eclipse myself, but my understanding of it is that actually the Payara plugin only works with older versions of Eclipse. It doesn't work with the absolute very latest version. So we are rewriting it now so that it can actually work with the latest versions. And during the process of that, actually making it work with Payara 6 and Jakarta EE10 at the same time. For IntelliJ, I believe it is just a case of we're in the process of updating the plugin so it can actually integrate with Payara 6 itself.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Hopefully that answers the question. And Douglas is asking, I guess, the follow-up question. Could we get a little more clarification on NetBeans and Payara 6? Does that mean we won't be able to step through code in the IDE, for example? That would definitely be a showstopper for us.
I was actually typing out an answer, but you got there before I finished. So it's, from my knowledge of it, it's the actual server integration parts with the IDE that aren't working at the moment. So, for example, starting, stopping the server, that kind of thing, deploying from the IDE potentially. I'm not intimately aware of what works and what doesn't work at the moment. But the actual debugging itself, that will work fine. You would just potentially have to attach to it as a pure debugging port, so just attach directly to port 9009 rather than necessarily using any of the IDE integration of start in debug mode or anything like that. You would just have to start Payara server in debug mode yourself and then attach to it like that. As I say, the Luddite way of working should still work. So controlling the server yourself manually, that should all work fine. And then once you've started the server, just attach to the debug port.
Thanks, Andrew.
In the absence of the plugin, you can still use Payara 6 just fine. Like Andrew said, you just won't have the extra shiny features that a plugin provides, but general development, debugging, and all of that should just work fine. So feel free to just give Payara 6 community a try.
Great, thanks, Luqman. So going back to our IntelliJ and NetBeans conversation, would you recommend IntelliJ over NetBeans and Eclipse? Is it personal preference?
That's a dangerous question. That's starting wars.
Yeah, I think we've had that before. Well, maybe we reserve the right not to answer the question.
I think the same question got asked last time, and
I think so. Yeah,
dodged it in exactly the same way.
It is personal. Just use what works for you, really. All of them support. You can use Payara in all of them. So just use what works for you, what works for your organization, what you're comfortable with. We really don't have any recommendation. That's why we support all of them. In the end, everybody has different experiences with different tools out there. Something that might work for somebody might not necessarily work for the next person. Our experiences differ. So generally, when it comes to IDEs, just use what you're familiar with, what gets you productive to deliver value. Just use that, and then you should be good to go. In the end, Payara supports all of them, and then that's all that matters. Just get your job done with whatever tool works best for you.
Great, thanks, Luqman. So hopefully we haven't started any wars just yet. Any tools to help migration to Payara 6? I assume obviously that's migration from 5 to 6. Do we have any tools?
So obviously there's the transformer tool, which is probably the biggest one. Other tools around that currently, no. For on the enterprise side of things, obviously Payara 6 Enterprise doesn't exist yet, but will soon, TM. But as part of that initial release of Payara Enterprise 6, we are putting some work into adding that kind of functionality to the upgrade tool that we currently have. So obviously, again, it's not going to be the necessarily the silver bullet to solve all your problems, but it should at least get you some of the way. And then if it can't get you all of the way, kind of mention, I couldn't do this bit, you need to take these steps, for example.
Yeah, there's always the option of raising a ticket as well if you have enterprise. So, you know, before you kick that upgrade process off to Payara 6, just let us know that that's your plan, and we can have preliminary calls around that and discuss the ins and outs of that in your own context.
Yeah, because it can differ. Again, different environments, different approach might be needed. Thanks, guys. So next question, why is there no version that supports Jakarta E9?
Technically there was of the early versions of Payara 6, the alpha 1 and maybe alpha 2. I can't remember which ones aligned to which, not alpha 4 or alpha 3, because those were EE10, but alpha 1 and 2, let's just go with that. They do actually support Jakarta EE9, but moving forward generally, as in with the non-Jakarta releases, it's not Jakarta releases, Payara releases. It is predominantly because the Jakarta EE9 releases are just functionally near enough to EE8, barring the namespace change, that we just made the decision of EE10 is where most people, or where we feel most people are going to go to, because that's where the actual new features are. That's where the new shiny jangle the keys, that's where that is. So we're going to go for that rather than continuing to support Jakarta EE9, given that it is just predominantly a namespace change.
Yeah, I guess if you are already on if you are on Jakarta E8 and Jakarta E10 is now out, there's probably no point for you to go to Jakarta E9 and then Jakarta E10. You just jump right into Jakarta E10. If you were very eager in the past, you could have gone from 8 to 9 and not wait until 10 was out. But now that we've got Jakarta E10, we wouldn't recommend you to go 9 and 10. We would just recommend you to go from 8 to 10 right away, because that's you want to be on Jakarta E10 at the end of the day.
So Andrew. Andrew, if someone wants to use Jakarta E9 for a specific reason, you know, because people have all sorts of different projects, will we support that via our support channel?
Will we support Jakarta EE9? I believe the answer is no. For Payara 6, it's EE10 upwards so far at the or just EE10, and then Payara 5 on the enterprise side of things, it's strictly going to remain as EE8, and Payara Enterprise doesn't actually currently include the upgrade tool, the transformer. That was always intended very much as a tool to get you from for community to get from EE8 to EE10 or EE8 to EE9, or whichever way you want to do it. On the enterprise side of things, we were very much leaving it there because, as was mentioned, it is a best effort. It's not a silver bullet. For the time being, the decision was made of, for Payara 5, we don't necessarily want to continue trying to backport everything from 10 or 9 to 8, but for moving forward into Payara 6, once Payara 6 Enterprise becomes a thing, the intent is, yes, we are going to try and make the best effort to support people moving from EE8 to EE10, and that including the transformer in there in Payara Enterprise. But obviously, not the silver bullet. There will inevitably potentially hit some point where it's just a case of you need to make some changes, and we can potentially help with that.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew.
I'm not sure if I answered the question.
It was John's question. Is Jakarta EE10 supported by Payara Cloud or on Payara Cloud, I guess? So we've got Payara Cloud coming up for discussion. So do we support Jakarta E10 with Payara Cloud? We don't have Payara Cloud experts here.
Not yet, to the best of my knowledge, not yet, but it's in the works and should be out as a feature or as one of the upgrades to the platform sometime within the next quarter. So it's in the works, but not at the moment.
So it's Jakarta E8, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, my knowledge of is that I was 80 to 90% sure that it was using Payara 5 under the cover. So yes, it's EE8, but yes, at some point it will also itself make a jump to Payara 6.
Great. Okay.
Once you mentioned cloud, I'll just add that there's a lot of features planned for the Payara Cloud platform. Just keep an eye on the blog and the Payara Cloud website. There is a lot of new features, updates, and generally shiny stuff that makes us developers happy and planned. So just keep up with the blog, and then you should be rolling those out in the near future.
Thank you. Thanks, Luqman. So for developing microservices specifically with Payara 6, what should be used, Jakarta E10 or MicroProfile 5 for microservices development?
So MicroProfile is obviously kind of tailor-made for those microservices architecture. That was one of the main impetuses for it, but Jakarta EE itself, depending on how you want to play the game exactly, MicroProfile, particularly moving into MicroProfile 6, actually depends on core profile of Jakarta EE. So depending how you see that, you would be using both regardless. But MicroProfile is the one that's very much designed for it. But that's not to say that you can't use bits of Jakarta EE to use for your microservices architecture. As I say, it already includes JAX-RS, which is very typically the one most people tend to, a lot of architectures are moving towards now. They don't tend to use SOAP or anything like that, or to my knowledge anyway. But yes, MicroProfile, but the decision is easy enough in the sense that there isn't a MicroProfile version of Payara and then a Jakarta version of Payara. It's still just Payara. So on the application side of things, you would just use what you need to.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. I think John might have answered that question already, but let's go back to that. How long will Payara 5 Enterprise be supported? So 5 on Enterprise.
Yeah, each enterprise release of Payara has a 10-year life cycle. So Payara Enterprise 5 is going to run to 2028. Payara 4 is actually still in support at the moment, Payara Enterprise 4, but that's winding down. And then Payara Enterprise 6 hasn't even launched yet, but I expect the support for that will run into the early part of the next decade. So yeah, as I alluded to earlier, very long runway if you're an enterprise customer, which gives you almost limitless scope for actually upgrading your major versions and the various Jakarta frameworks at a time which works for you, rather than being bound by our release cycle or the Jakarta EE release cycle.
Yeah, thanks, John.
I just want to add a little bit to the answer Andrew gave about the bit to use for microservices. For us, Payara, we don't really shoehorn you to specific choices. Our goal is to give you as much choices as you can. So you have Jakarta EE, the entire breadth, the gamut of the platform. You can use MicroProfile and you can use the core profile. You are generally free to use whatever you want to use for microservices. All of them can achieve generally the same result. So for us at Payara, we don't really have strong recommendations. Use this for that alone. Our goal is to help you get productive on the entire Jakarta EE platform. So in the end, it's a business domain specific requirement. You gather your requirement, you make your analysis, and then you choose the best APIs or group of APIs or Jakarta EE or MicroProfile, whichever works best for your domain, and then you use that. In the end, as long as the Payara server supports both, you are good to go. We don't have strong recommendations that Payara recommends to use this or that or no. Our goal is to give you the tools to make the right decision for a business domain.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Luqman. That's right. So continuation of the enterprise discussion. So for enterprise, what are the limits of support? There's bug fixes, assistance with migrating to Jakarta E10, etc. What about something like trying to migrate from JSF to a different front end like Angular? That's from Mike. Question for Mike. So yeah, might be answer from John or Andrew. Or Luqman as well, yeah, any of you guys. So yeah, if there are any limitations, so what about something like trying to migrate from JSF to a different front end? Is that something that we can support as well?
I believe that would probably start to come under the consultancy side of things that we start to offer now, since Payara server itself is a Java EE application server. Angular is not a part of Java EE. So we would, consultancy probably would be available. Someone whack me on the head if I start speaking rubbish, but consultancy would be available to potentially help you with that kind of thing. But actually, like, fixing issues with Angular when running on Payara is getting into a bit more of a gray area of, it's a Java EE application server, not a Angular server. Yeah,
the short answer is we can definitely help you to start to investigate that and help you to identify where the root of the problem is that you're looking to solve. And then, yeah, if the outcome of that is, okay, it's in another technology which integrates with Payara, not a change that we can make from within Payara, or through some other code addition, then that's probably about as far as our investigation goes on the support side. But yeah, we can definitely offer consultancy for any aspect of your Payara environment, for any technology that's integrating with Payara. Our engineers have got a lot of experience in this area.
Yeah, just feel free to reach out and find out the detail of that, and then we can support you as best as we can as an enterprise customer. So just reach out with your specific use cases, and then our support specialists should reach out to you with the best case scenario can support you with.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, case by case in those situations. Right, I hope that answers your question. So another one, does the most recent Payara 5 support JDK 17, or is it only supported starting with Payara 6? Sort of, I think, highlighting the previous question.
It does. Again, somebody do that if we're not doing that, but it's Payara 5 has at least ran, I believe I can say supported JDK 17, but it has supported JDK 17 for quite a while now. Clearly we needed to yell louder, but it's been there for a while. So yes, the most recent version of it and the imminent about to be released both support JDK 17.
Yeah, but I believe it was early this year, Andrew, when JDK 17 support was announced, or it might even have been back end of 2021. But yeah,
it moved into enterprise this year, but it's been in community for a bit longer than that, of obviously testing it out to try and find the issues.
Yeah, we're certainly in the position now where JDK 17 support's bedded in for both versions of Payara 5, i.e. community and enterprise. So yeah, it's very much in the platform now.
Okay, great. So I think I believe we answered that question, but we go back to that just to confirm it. Will the Eclipse transformer work? I'm assuming, will it work in Payara Platform 6?
Yes.
That's a very, very quick answer.
Yes. Fingers crossed. Yeah, it should work. It's there now. Currently you've got it's it's formulated as an extension currently, so it's not bundled into Payara 6 community. You have to drop the an extra extension into the modules folder, but it does work because I just fixed it recently. It didn't work the last time I said it worked, and then I went crap and I fixed it. So yes, it does. It works as of now, but it moving into the future, it should still work.
Okay.
Yeah, it works. Generally, it should, like I mentioned earlier, it's a best case effort. It should work. So just try using it or use it. And then if there is something broken, you can, if you're an enterprise customer, you can reach out to our channel, or you can post in our forum, and then we should get back to you. But generally, it should work.
Yeah, and we're still iterating on it. We haven't just abandoned it or anything. I believe in the upcoming release, we should, or we're currently not in the upcoming release, sorry, but we are currently working on adding extra things to it, such as with HTTP headers of having duplicating it essentially. Of obviously the namespace of certain headers has changed from Jakarta to from Javax to Jakarta, and that's not something that would be imminently obvious in your application, but we're trying to add support for that now as well, of essentially having both headers available, so to help with that migration rather than your application suddenly going, the header's not there, help.
Thanks very much for that. So I'm posting some links as promised in the chat. So I posted the link to the Payara Platform 6 release webinar, which was done with Andrew, where some of the things that I've mentioned at the beginning, Andrew went into more details, more technical details about those. So if you do want to have a look, you can check the recording. And I also linked to the page where because there were a couple of questions about lifecycle and how long we support different releases, what are the lifecycle phases. So I also linked to that page where you can see some graphs and explanations on both JDK and just Payara Platform releases. So yeah, so we started supporting JDK 17 in May 2022, just so that according to this page, because we weren't sure about the exact date. So yeah, everything is there. So if you want to copy those links for you for future reference, and yeah, and obviously on our website, payara.fish, you can find all the information about Payara Platform Enterprise, as well as Payara Platform Community. And I do encourage you all to subscribe to our mailing list. We are sending regular technical content. The best way to do it is to go to the blog, which I will link for you now as well. And on every page on the blog, you can basically see a very simple sign up form, and you can choose the frequency, how often you want to hear from us. And basically you will get all of the updates about the new releases, and that's the releases of Payara Platform, but also releases of Microprofile, Jakarta EE, etc. So if you don't want to follow every single mailing list around Eclipse as well, you can just follow us, and we will make sure that you are informed about it, about all of the changes, about all of the new releases within what's actually important if you are a Payara Platform user, whether you are on community or enterprise. Right, I think that is all of the questions that we've had so far. There's been some really nice discussion in the chat as well, so thank you everyone for actually answering some of the questions in there, and maybe confirming some of the things that we weren't sure about in there. So that's very useful. It's really nice to see the community supporting each other. As I mentioned, that make sure that you also have a look at our forum, because that's where you can find some questions. Oh, there you go, the light went off. You see, I'm sitting in the office without anyone else moving, so I'm disappearing. Here I am again. So yeah, the forum, this is where you can also find some answers to the questions. You can post your questions if you are on Payara Platform Community. We do check the forum regularly as well, but what we want to encourage is obviously the community members helping each other. And obviously, as we've mentioned before, if there are things that go beyond that sort of community engagement and community help, we do encourage you, we do recommend you to consider Payara Platform Enterprise, because if you want the secure and stable environment, this is the only way to go, really. And we can definitely help you with that. John is the person to talk to as well. If you just reach out to us at some point, you will likely speak to him as well. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew, John, Luqman. It was very useful. I think we've answered lots of questions today. I hope you all have a very good weekend. It's Friday. For us, it's Friday afternoon. For some of you, it's definitely Friday morning. But yeah, it's Friday nevertheless. So have a nice weekend, and we will definitely speak to you, see you shortly. Thank you again. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
See you
everyone.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks for
Bye.
joining.
Bye.